Hi everyone, welcome to my garden. The cost of everything is going up, including gardening. Now I personally want to save money and do things cheaper. Here are 5 tips to do things for free or cheap in the garden so we can keep more money in our pockets. As gardeners, the biggest expense by far is soil. Now I never buy soil. Let me say that again. I never buy soil. There's so many ways that you can have soil for free in your garden or on the cheap. The first way is to buy it from a local landscape company in bulk to fill your raised beds. The second way is to make your own soil. I love to make my own potting mix out of coco coir, worm castings, and compost. And once you put that initial investment into your garden, you can save your own soil and reuse it over and over again. Now there's many ways that I save my soil. When we do any projects, like up on our deck, I dig up the extra soil, save it in a trash can on the side of my yard, and then we use that as topsoil when we fill our raised beds and just amend it with compost and worm casting so my raised beds are nice and fertile. The other thing I like to do is to never throw away my container soil. Once the plants are spent, I simply empty the soil into a trash can by my potting bench and then reuse it and refill my containers while adding extra amendments each time I plant. I also always save the soil from my seed starting containers after I transplant my plants. So I have another bin that I keep it in on my potting bench, and that way when I'm ready to pot up my seedlings or plant new seedlings, I simply fill the 6-packs from that bin, add a few worm castings, plant my seeds, and we're good to go, saving a ton of money on soil. I've got videos on how to make your own soil right here. Make sure you check that out. You can save a ton of money on soil or have it for free. Another huge expense for us gardeners is trellises and stakes. Now I always save materials that I find around my yard or tree branches for my trellises. Now a lot of you just saw how Camera Guy made me a really neat storage area under the deck here where I stash my sunflower stalks, my longer sticks, which I save from branches from trees that we cut, and then I can simply make my trellises out of them. There's so many different uses for long trellises. The sunflower stalks, you can make a teepee trellis simply by winding twine around the top, and the long sticks you can use as a stake or use for climbing plants like cucumbers or peas. Then of course I always have my favorite stash of sticks here in the corner, which I just recently organized into short sticks and medium sticks, and the long sticks are up there. A gardener can never have too many sticks. Let me know if you've got a pile of sticks in your backyard that you've been saving, just in case you might need it someday. And make sure you subscribe. Hit that bell notification, that way you don't miss any of our videos. Thanks a lot for helping us out that way. When you're gardening on a budget, it's time to get creative with sticks and branches. One of my very favorite is this tree branch ladder trellis. Now please excuse how the tomato looks. We've had crazy hot weather and it needs to be pulled out. But the tree branch trellis I made actually from these trees right above here that we trimmed. And then I just formed it in the shape of a ladder. We've got our supports on the side, nice thick branches, and then put little ladders across the middle for supports for my climbing vegetables. The only thing I had to buy was this nice thick looking twine to kind of lash them together, and voila, a free, cheap, inexpensive trellis made completely from natural repurposed materials. A new repurposed trellis to me this year is my tomato string trellis, and I can't say enough good about this. I absolutely love it. Totally got creative here and repurposed from the top to the bottom. We've got some T-posts here, which we had stashed in the corner of our yard, some solid wooden posts, a nice thick sturdy tree branch for the top, painted it all, screwed it together. The only thing I had to buy was my tomato pulleys, which came with a string. So this trellis probably cost me about $5, not bad for growing 4 beautiful tomato plants underneath it. And I gotta show you guys real quick, the Domingo tomato. We're gonna be harvesting it soon, so stay tuned. It's probably 1 to 2 pounds. Isn't it gorgeous? And you can tell that I am protecting it from critters. Camera Guy's got his critter cam here. And tonight before we go to bed, I'm gonna be wrapping this in t-shirt material to protect it from the rats and the squirrels. Fingers crossed. So you can save a lot of money just by looking around your yard and finding what materials you can repurpose for a trellis. The next way that I love to save money is by saving seeds. And 2 of my favorite seeds to save that are probably the easiest are lettuce and beans. Now I know this doesn't look like a lettuce plant right now, but what happens in the hot weather here in the summer, the lettuce shoots up this tall stalk, it bolts, it goes to flower. These flowers are just about ready to open. The bees love the flowers, and when the flowers dry up, they look like this. And inside this little puff here are thousands of seeds that are ready to save and be replanted. Super easy to do. When you're saving seeds though, if you want a plant true to the parent plant, you want to save heirloom seeds. You can save seeds that aren't heirloom, but they won't necessarily be true to the parent plant. You never know what you're going to get with those. So the lettuce seeds are super easy. You do want to wait to save them till they're very, very dry, like they are here. Then all you have to do is kind of shake them a little bit or rub them between your fingers, and the teeny tiny little lettuce seeds will fall right out. And bam, we're saving money, free plants and free seeds for next time you plant lettuce. The great thing is not only are we saving money and getting free seeds here, but when you save seeds from your own garden, they also adapt to your climate, making them more resilient plants. So we can set these on the counter to dry for a couple of days. And then once your seeds are completely dry, you can just put them in a baggie and save them till you're ready to plant them again. The next plant I love to save seeds from is beans. Very easy, especially at this point in the growing season. You just let a few of them dry on the plant, like my scarlet runner beans here. So once they're nice and dry and they kind of have a little bit of a rattle, that means the beans are dry in the pod. You just snip them off the plant. You can do this with any type of beans, but I love saving scarlet runner bean seeds because they are so beautiful. So I'm going to open this pot up and show you what these bean seeds look like. These gorgeous purple and black beans. These are so dry, they're popping out of the pod. And what I like to do, just to keep my life easier at this point in the summer, is this bean plant is kind of on its last leg. So what I'm going to do right now is just poke a couple of these into the ground. So I have a brand new plant to take the place when the scarlet runner bean plant has reached the end of its life. Just pop them in, cover them up with soil, and because it's so warm, new beans will be growing within about a week or so. Talk about saving money. It doesn't get any simpler or any more free than this. Now I just pulled all these beans off my scarlet runner beans from all around the garden over the past few weeks. And not only can I share these seeds with my friends, but I can also save the seeds and then rehydrate them for salads and soups over the wintertime. Free and delicious too. And if you don't have enough seeds saved from last year to plant this year, did you know we have a seed and garden shop, over 30 seed collections, and you can save even more with our discount right now, CaliKim 25% off fall garden seed collection. Get that fall garden planted. The next way I get plants for absolutely free is by propagating. Propagating is simply growing a new plant from the mother plant. And it has many, many benefits. You get an endless supply of the plant that you're growing. You can just keep on growing it all summer. You get new, fresh plants. They're plants for free. And you also get to clone your favorite plants to keep on growing them. And it's a whole lot faster than starting from seed. So the easiest plants to propagate are tomatoes, basil, and mint. Definitely my favorites, and they root very, very quickly. Now the process is very simple. First, you take a cutting from your basil, mint, or tomato plant. Now with basil, you want to find a plant that has a long stem, about 2 to 3 inches long. Follow that stem down to the place where 2 other stems branch out. Take your cutting and do the same for mint, but you want to take a good 3 to 4 inch cutting of a mint plant. Now for tomatoes, you can propagate both determinate and indeterminate varieties. So you want to find a sucker from one of your favorite tomato plants. Here I've got my Golden Jubilee tomato plant and the Domingo I just showed you. These are both indeterminate varieties. And a sucker is a little shoot that comes out in the armpit of the main stem and the branch. So you cut it right there, and then all you have to do is place it in a jar of water. I like to put a drop or 2 of Vermicera worm tea because it has a natural rooting hormone. And in just a couple of weeks, you're going to have a plant that has a fabulous root system just like this, a wonderful free new plant. Now, in the meantime, when your plant is rooting, you want to place it out of direct sunlight. I like to bring mine into the house, place them on a windowsill, and then look for the roots to start to grow. Now, once your plants develop really good root systems, like my basil, mint, and tomatoes are here, what you want to do is plant them in a small little jar of soil. So I'm just going to take out my rooted plant. And these have been growing on my windowsill for about a month or so, but you don't have to let it grow that long. Once it has a nice root system, a few inches long, these plants are actually super intertwined, you can plant them in a little cup of soil. So I'm just ripping the roots apart. These are very resilient. I filled my cups with soil. With the pre-moistened potting mix, I do use my indoor seed starting mix because I'm going to be growing these indoors. Poke a hole in it, and then place my rooted cutting down in the hole. And just kind of fill it in, tamp it down, and then keep these well watered. Put them on your windowsill out of direct sunlight. In a few weeks, they'll be ready to transplant out in your garden. Once they give a little bit of resistance, that means their roots are established. Now, don't forget to harden them off first before you transplant them into their final home in your raised beds or containers. Here I have 8 completely free new plants, with more on the way. Another huge expense for us gardeners is fertilizer. Keep our plants happy and healthy and keep them producing. Now, one of my favorite things to do in the garden to save money is composting. It's free. You can turn trash into treasure and make beautiful black gold for your plants. Now, let me just show you my composting system here. I've got to add some new materials to my compost. And I keep my scraps in the refrigerator because if I keep them under the sink, the fruit flies get too bad. But basically, I have a 2-bin system. I have my system here, or my compost sack here, that I add my brand new scraps, and this is my bin in progress. So I'm constantly adding new scraps to this compost sack. And I love the compost sacks because they're very inexpensive, keeping gardening low cost. They also keep the critters out of your compost, which is always a big problem for me. So I'm just dumping my scraps in. And if you want to, you can get in here with a pointed shovel and chop things up to make the composting process go faster, or you can just dump them in and let them rot. Now here I'm doing the cold composting method, where you just add your scraps in here, let them sit, and they take several months to break down. If you want to make a hot compost pile, I've got tons of videos on that, how you can make compost from start to finish in about 3 to 4 weeks. So this compost pile has a good mixture of greens, which are the scraps I just added, or any garden waste that you might be, plants that you might be pulling out. It also has a good mixture of browns, which are the shredded leaves, coffee grounds, sticks. You can even add shredded paper or shredded cardboard. And here I'm just mixing my scraps in. And your compost sack should be about as moist as a wrung out sponge. Actually pretty moist in here. Don't need to add water, but if it is, there's a few little drops coming out. But if it's too dry, you're going to want to water it down and turn it, and go back and watch my old composting videos for how to do that. You can see this pile is breaking down very, very nicely. This is probably the last time we'll add kitchen scraps to this pile. See how it's starting to look like soil with not a lot of recognizable kitchen scraps in it? So I'll continue to let this pile break down, and when it is finished, with no recognizable kitchen scraps or anything else in it, and it looks like soil and smells like soil, I'll move all the finished compost over into my compost sack next door here. So this is the black gold that we gardeners dream about. And I've been using this pile all summer long. Look at this gorgeous, gorgeous soil. It smells amazing. It smells nice and earthy. I can put this on my plants for free fertilizer. I mean, you really can't beat that. It's full of nutrients and will make my plants just grow and produce for me. And now's a good time later in the season to do a mid-season boost, like I've been showing in a lot of my videos lately. Just put a handful around my plants, water it in, and your plants are good to go for the summer. So once I empty this finished pile, once it finishes into here, I'll start a new pile in this compost sack, and the whole process just repeats itself over and over again, so I never run out of free fertilizer for my vegetable garden. These first 2 compost sacks are called the urban compost sacks. They're about 50 gallons. They're easy to collect enough materials in and have handles, so they're perfect for a small backyard. It's not too overwhelming to make compost in those. This one is their original compost sack. It's 100 gallons. And what I do with these is I keep all of my leaves in it. So I've got all the shredded leaves that I've collected over the past year or so. And what I'll do with these is either mulch my garden beds with them, or once I add new kitchen scraps to my first compost sack, if it's a little bit too wet, or if I just want to keep the fruit flies down a little bit, if I'm having a problem with that, I'll just sprinkle a layer of shredded leaves over the top, and it adds more brown carbon-rich material. These are my 5 favorite ways to garden for free or for cheap and to keep more money in my pocket. How about you? Share yours below so we can all save money together. Thanks for watching. See you next time in the garden.